All right, accountability buddies, it's vlog number 31, and I got outside. I got a warm, relative to Massachusetts winters, warm day here. It's in the mid-30s already. It's supposed to be, I think, a high of 40-ish, but that's today's weather report. And I have clear, sunny day, which I am excited about. We've gotten a little bit of a melt off this morning, so some of the ice and snow that we received over the last couple of days has melted, and more of the sidewalks are clear, which makes going for a walk much more attainable. I did the loop around the community college and came down into the park, which only part of it is kept clear by the city, so the outer parts of it, and then the actual walkway next to the ocean is not kept clear, which is kind of a bummer. So there's that. One of the things that I wanted to address today is getting started. Just drop my... I dropped my gloves because I took those off to set up the camera, and I brought my cup of coffee with me today because I'm saving some pennies to do something for this channel that might be interesting over the summer. We'll see if it actually happens. It depends on a bunch of things, but it might not. We will see. So what I wanted to talk about today was getting started. It's sort of like, big gust of wind right there. I kind of glossed over this when I was talking about like my budget stuff and talking about making changes. So in all of those previous episodes of this vlog, I glossed over this, and the getting started aspect was the hardest part. It's that getting moving forward with when you have a lot of inertia, and getting that started was difficult. And the way that I got started was, number one, I got a lecture, speech, whatever you want to call it, from my nurse practitioner / doctor about I was eating myself into an early grave and I was going to die young. Those weren't her exact words, but that's what she meant. That's what she was saying. That was my translation of it. I was like, make changes or die young. And then I kind of had to come to terms with the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and start to make changes. Or, as my doctor would say, die young. So, the first changes I made were incredibly small because it's hard. It's hard to make change. So the first small change that I made was anytime I would go and run an errand or go to the grocery store, I would park as far from the door as I possibly could and force myself to walk across the parking lot to get into the store, but then also have to push a loaded cart back to the car, which is more difficult than it sounds, especially when you're completely out of shape. Then the next step I took, so I did that for a few weeks. So this journey started before I started recording it. I've got the 30-something days, the month plus here on this channel, and then a couple of weeks, probably a month's worth of stuff on the Comfortable Shoes Studio channel. But before that, for about a month, I was doing these tiny, small changes to help myself get to the point where I could actually walk longer distances. So the grocery store, going to Lowe's, going to Home Depot, parking across the parking lot, those were the first steps. And those were not easy steps to make. So I did that. And then the next step was just walking around the block. So my block is not very big, but instead of just driving or stopping at CVS on my way home when I had to pick up something there, I would walk there on the weekend. And that is, it's maybe a quarter mile. It's not even a quarter mile. I should measure it the next time I'm out walking, just to get an idea of what it actually is. So that was like the next step, is walking around the block, doing that for a few weeks, and then upping it, going around the next block, walking to the cafe and getting a cup of coffee. And still, we're talking like, here's a third of a mile. it's not a long distance for me to do this. But also using rewards like a cup of coffee, because this is something I always joke about, but human beings are trainable just like dogs. I am absolutely trainable. I respond to the idea of like, oh, I'm going to get a treat at the end of this, and my treat might be just something as simple as a cup of coffee. And food-based rewards, not always the best for someone trying to lose weight. But that is a thing that I used was, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'm going to go to the cafe, get a cup of coffee, and that's my reward for doing this. And, that helped to get me started. It was these things that allowed me to say, okay, I did that, the half-mile round trip. I did the 1 mile round trip. I did a 1.5 mile round trip. And then that led me to start thinking, well, can I do longer than that? And that's when I started my walk across town to the other cafe, which was 1.5 miles away. So that's a 3-mile round trip. So, the small changes added up and led me to be able to make larger changes and longer walks and different sorts of exercise. And so that's one of the things, that's why I'm doing the bike trainer on days when I can't go outside and walk. I obviously much prefer going outside to walk, and right now it's really not safe to get a bike outside unless you have fat tires and studded tires and things like that. And I don't have the financial resources to get a fat tire bike or to stud my tires, although I probably could stud the tires. I know that there are a number of hacks on them. I've done a lot of research on that in the past, particularly when I was riding my bike on the regular to school, to the train, and things like that. So I probably could. I don't know that it would be that expensive to stud just my front tire. But regardless, I don't feel safe riding in the snow and the slush in my neighborhood, in part because Massachusetts drivers are so aggressive towards cyclists. And so anyway, cycling is something that I plan, not cycling like roadie cycling, that's not my style. More party pace, take it slow, kind of enjoy the ride type of rider. So that's something that's definitely going to be coming to the channel, and I've got some plans around that, which I think will be a lot of fun. But that's one of the reasons why I'm starting to ride the trainer, is because I want to be more comfortable on my bike and getting out there and doing longer distances, because that's something I've always wanted to do. And I will talk more about that in another episode of the vlog. That's something definitely for the future. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about those small changes that I made. Hopefully that inspires you to think about some small changes you can make. Let me know in the comments if any of that is helpful for you, or not. Let me know, if you have some other ideas that you've done that are helpful for you that other people might find helpful. Leave those in the comments. And I know that I'm coming from an able-bodied perspective. I am, for the most part, other than previous injuries, I'm mostly able-bodied. I can get around okay. I might have the occasional twinges of pain in my ankle and my knee from previous injuries, but, I'm not reliant on a wheelchair or crutches or anything like that. So I know that I have a different perspective than many might. One of the things, that's not really for the vlog. We've had a lot of discussions in my city about the sidewalks not being clear, people parking on the sidewalks, and folks in mobility devices not being able to get around. That's beside the point. So, I am coming from that perspective, and I have the capability of doing this. So anyway, again, going back to that, thank you for watching. I appreciate your support. I appreciate all the thumbs up. I really appreciate all of the comments. I appreciate all of the views. So thank you, and I will see you next time.